Welcome back to the channel and welcome back to another edition of the Spurs Chat Podcast. We are live on YouTube, live on X and live on Facebook. Please do get involved. Let us know how you are feeling about today's win. Tottenham Hotspur 3, Burnley 0. Tottenham Hotspur have got off to a winning start. Thomas Frank has got off to a winning start. We are absolutely delighted. Now, of course, the game finished 3-0. Richarlison scored for Spurs after 10 minutes. Richarlison scored again after 60 minutes. What a goal that was. We will talk about that in depth on this podcast. Brennan Johnson made it 3 after 66 minutes. Kudus with 2 fantastic assists for Tottenham on his Premier League debut for the club. Sarr with the other assist on 66 minutes. Now, Tottenham Hotspur had 67.8% of the ball to Burnley's 32.2%. XG, Tottenham 2.33 to Burnley's 1.1. Shots, Spurs had 16 to Burnley's 14. Shots on target, Tottenham had 6 to Burnley's 4. And total touches inside the opposition box, Spurs 26, Burnley 25. Goalkeeper saves, Spurs 4, Burnley 3. Fouls committed, Spurs 14, Burnley 8. And corners, Spurs had 6 to Burnley's 5. Now, let's introduce the guests. We have got Ricky Norwood back with us. Ricky, the smiles are back, the wins are back, the sun's still shining. Thomas Frank has got off to a winning start. How are you?
Mate, buzzing. What a way to start the Premier League weekend. What a way to start our season. Look, we saw so much from that. I know we're going to get in, but we saw so much from that. And they built on that Super Cup. They didn't let it drop, but we have to start. I have to start before we go anywhere, bro. We're bigging up Richarlison today. Now, I am one of his biggest critics. The only one that I've heard ever really back him is your son, Chris. He's the only one that's ever said to me, "Nah, Richarlison, watch him." And I've always been like, I don't know. And I keep asking for him to do his job. And boy, today he done his job. My goodness. What is this Thomas Frank side gonna be? It's gonna be absolutely epic, mate. I'm buzzing, I'm hyped. Yes, I'm going overboard, but I don't care right now. To see what I saw today, structure, strength, tenacity, individual brilliance, power, strength. Oh, mate, and the goals today were gorgeous too. Clean sheet, looking solid from top to toe. Just a beautiful, beautiful day. Let's get in. Can't wait, mate. Can't wait.
I can't wait either. I only asked how you are.
I know, but I'm buzzing, bruv. I'm back. That's it. We're back. Premier League's back.
We will get into it. We will get into it all. Back with us also is Richard Whitehead, MBE. Rich, how are you?
What a surprise. Another season and another season where you can't shut Ricky Norwood up. What a surprise that is. Dominates the fresh air in the room, as they say. Yeah, no, awesome. Thank you. Yeah, very pleased with obviously result today. What can I say? 3-0. Yes, Burnley, but fantastic momentum. Like Ricky said, from obviously the Super Cup game, where obviously result didn't go our way, but the performance definitely did.
Jamie says here, it's Burnley. Relax. Jamie, we're not getting carried away. But I tell you what, on this podcast, we enjoy the wins. We enjoy the wins when we get them, especially in the Premier League, especially after last year. Back also with us is Spurs YouTuber and channel regular, Hollie Agombar. Hollie, how are you?
Oh, I'm buzzing. I kind of echo what everybody's already said. Yes, it's only Burnley, but there's been too many times last season where I wanted to gouge my eyeballs out. So today was a lovely release and we're all smiling. So it's great to be on here and to talk about a win.
I tell you what, I know it's a boring thing to say and it's a bit of a cliche, but there are no easy games in the Premier League. So getting off to a winning start for Thomas Frank is absolutely delightful. Ricky, let's start the show with you. Let's get your thoughts on the game because, like I said there, it's very important for a manager to get off to a winning start. And I must say, I'm going to play a video for those of you watching on YouTube and Facebook right now. But at the final whistle, Thomas Frank, he hugged every single player in sight, the injured players, the coaches there. He hugged every single staff member, whether they were a camera operator, one of the social media staff. He hugged everyone. It meant a lot to him at the final whistle. And walking down the tunnel as well with the fans, you could see the real delight on his face that he's got off to a winning start, clean sheet. You know, it's the perfect result. Spurs were nearly top of the Premier League. You know, we won't get carried away. Sunderland have pipped us to it. But your overall thoughts on the game, you happy?
Oh, mate, I'm buzzing, mate. I'm really happy with what I've seen. For me, the Super Cup, you know, I saw a lot of what Thomas was bringing to the table. I saw a change in shape, change in formation, but the intensity, the energy, the hard work, tactical fouls, the niggles, you know, the set plays, throw-ons. We were looking for every inch in that game, and you know, the better side lost the other night, but today they didn't let it hit them for too long. They came out there and made a statement, and we switched up formation, and hit them with another game plan. And if this is the beginning of what's to come, you know, you talk about unpredictability. Some were saying last year that, you know, we were a very predictable side, and with the 22 defeats, it's probably true that. But you know, with a Thomas Frank Tottenham side right now, I don't think anybody's going to know what's going to turn up. And they might guess the formation, but they won't guess the personnel. You know, we had two young ones in there today, Gray and Bergvar, who started the game off. Papsar, absolutely immense, mate. Absolutely immense. It's going to be a Papsar season. You can see him really embracing the challenge of the midfield and taking up that responsibility. And he is everywhere, absolute running machine. But you know, like the little, again, tactical fouls here, quick passing, moving the ball up and down the field. He was helping covering as well as helping to find a quick ball going, you know, to kind of counter attack on Burnley today. Kudus, absolutely, what a signing he is. Someone that I've wanted for a long time. Didn't think we was going to get him when he went to West Ham, and I was actually upset when he went to West Ham. But he's here now, wearing the number 20 with a cockerel on his chest, and my goodness, again, strength, tenacity. Again, you know, like he loves a fight, he loves a battle, and he's got skill. He's got absolute unpredictability in his feet, and it troubles defenses. And yes, we was up against Burnley, but as you said, Chris, there, you know, every single team is a difficult team. They've just been promoted. You know, they could be on the high of coming up. The reason they were nullified today was because we had it mostly under control. You know, I think the only thing that troubled Vicario was that deflected shot, which was a spin, and he palmed it out for a corner. But again, solid on set plays, for and against. There's so much to talk about. There's so many positives in this side that's what's really excited me right now. I normally wait until 10 games before I judge a manager or kind of say how I really feel. But this is such an exciting start. And I think it just bodes well for the season ahead and for the challenges ahead. These boys seem to be eating it up as well. They're loving the tactics. They're loving the new formations. They're loving the jobs and the roles that they've been given. And the fact that Thomas Frank, you know, went round the crowd today and shook everybody's hands and gave everybody hugs and really took it in, that's the way to start a season. That's the way to, you know, show people what you're about and how you're going to turn up this year and what you're bringing to that table, man. Like, so all in all, really good result. And it's just the beginning, boys and girls. It is just the beginning.
Ricky, I know that you and I have spoken a lot about Thomas Frank in the last couple of weeks, but how impressed have you been with him? Because he seems to be extremely animated on the sidelines, and the level of communication with him, his staff, his players, it seems to be unreal. And the amount of energy this guy has, you know, in that training session in South Korea when the heat was absolutely scorching, he was running around more than some of the players. But today, seeing him on the touchline at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, of course, his first game in charge at our stadium. You know, when Spurs even were 3-0 up today and they lost the ball, he was far from happy. And but when he needs to talk to his players, he seems to call the players over. That level of communication, I don't think I've ever seen anything like it, actually.
No, nor have I, Chris. But what is really encouraging for me, and I saw this more in the Super Cup game because of the drinks breaks, basically. But yeah, when he was doing it and you know, communicating what he wanted to happen on the field, and then bringing out the tactics board and talking to the coaches and talking to the players, I saw all of their eyes. And not one of them were looking to the sky. Not one of them were tying their shoelaces. Not one of them were, worried about what was happening behind them. Even if they were drinking from the drinks bottle, their eyes were on the tactic. It looked like they were hungry for whatever information and whatever tactic that we was about to implement. And these boys look ready for it, man. They look ready for it. We have bought an adaptable squad for a couple of years now. The players that we've bought in, there's, apart from Paulinho, who's a specialist in that number 6 role, but we've brought in players that can play in varied amount of positions. Now we've got a manager who's utilizing that with game plans, in-game game plans, and we're seeing it for ourselves. There was a lot of talk about Thomas Frank, and until we signed him, I didn't start doing my research on him because I was just like, I don't know whether this is going to happen or not. But as soon as I did, I was like, okay. And I started to understand what it was about, but I was like, can you bring that to Tottenham? And in 2 competitive games where something was on the line, I've been very, very impressed. And I mean, Richarlison again, to work. I saw that against PSG on Wednesday when we worked to Richarlison's strengths. And boy, does he have strength. All of the things he brings to the table, when people say he makes an impact, we worked towards it. We gave him the platform to do those things. And you saw a very impressive performance from Richie on Wednesday. And for him to build on that as well today and score 2 beautiful goals, which I know we'll get into.
Yeah.
I'm a bit blown away because I've said it before. Richarlison was on my to sell list. Right now, after Wednesday and today, I'm not so sure anymore. I can see the role. I can see the vision. And I've got to say, I'm going to give that to Thomas Frank for not only pulling it out in him, but designing a game plan that works towards his strengths.
I think he's been given different messages this season about his finishing. If you notice in the Super Cup final and today, he's obviously a very instinct player where ball comes to him, he hits it first time, it's more likely to have a positive impact. And
totally agree.
You can kind of see that from the messages that he's getting from the team. Even down to, I think there's a chance that Richie had when he kind of ran onto the ball and instead of running into the box, he hit it from about 35 yards in the Super Cup final. And I think that's the Richarlison we're going to get, that instinct player. And Tim Sherwood said on Sky Sports, Richarlison is a clumsy player. That's what you get from Richarlison. Looks very clumsy. Even when he scored 2 goals, he comes off the field and is not very emotional. And I think Richarlison's Richarlison, isn't he? And I think, like Ricky said, you need to play to his strength to get the best out of him. It's great header, obviously. Hang time is really good. As you saw today with his finishing, very clean, in the corner finishing. And I think if Spurs actually work to his strengths, like any striker really, anybody that you bring to the club, you bring a player to the club because of his strengths and what he can add to the team. And obviously when Richarlison was at Everton, he was one of these instinct players. And I think what Thomas Frank's probably done is he's probably looked back to his Everton days and said, actually, how do we get that Richarlison, not the Richarlison that we were kind of struggling to get the best out of over the last couple of seasons?
Yeah, I think there's some great points there, Rich. And of course, Thomas Frank was brought in to get the best out of players. And we've seen him do that so often at Brentford in the last 4 years in the Premier League, certainly, especially in that final third. I'm going to take a couple of comments here. R. Ferguson says, we have gone overboard every season with every manager. Then it all goes south. It's only Burnley. Let's hope at last. Wonder how long it is before Andrew's slagged off. Scribble Scrabble writes here. Proud of every single one of our guys tonight. But Kudus and Richie, just wowzers. Kudus, the signing of the season. And before I get your thoughts on the game, Rich, Fabrizio Romano in the last couple of hours has said the agreement between Eberechi Eze and Spurs on personal terms is done since beginning of the week. He wants the move to Tottenham, and Crystal Palace are in direct talks over fee. Tottenham Hotspur are confident to make it happen, but work is still needed. And the Sun reported earlier, as well as various other reports, they stated that it is expected that Eze will not be in the Crystal Palace squad travelling to Stamford Bridge to face Chelsea on Sunday. I'll tell you what, we'll talk a little bit about this later on, but I'll tell you what, I'd be very excited with Eze, Savinho in through the door. This could be good times indeed. And there's still a couple of weeks left of the transfer
Craig's
window.
going to be happy as well. Craig loves him, doesn't he?
I'll tell you what, I think,
he's got a pillow. He's got a pillow next to his bed with Eze on.
Ever since I've known Craig, it's like I don't think a week has gone by without me or him saying that we want Eze through the door. So, yeah,
He's got a tattoo and everything.
Rich, overall, 3-0 today. I know, there are a lot of people in the comments, and rightly so. I know we get excited on the podcast when we're talking about a win, because I suppose a lot of us have been on this podcast so often where we've not been talking about wins, so we'll take anything when we've got the 3 points. But overall, we're not going to get carried away. But overall, what you've seen of Thomas Frank, what you've seen of Thomas Frank's systems, his tactics, formations, his energy. What have you made of Spurs and especially today's performance?
Well, like you said just then, obviously sometimes you go overboard, but I think behaviours-wise from Thomas Frank have been completely different than Postecoglou. I've been quite critical with some of the shenanigans that go off before the actual game, whether it's the warm-up, whether it's in the tunnel, not really focused with the players. But I'm kind of getting now that not only the players focused, but you see a lot of the backroom staff interacting with the players around kind of certain messaging from obviously the defensive coach as well as the attacking coach. And everybody's getting their own little messages, which is their real focus for that game. And that's really important. And I think Thomas Frank's reinforcing that from that kind of umbrella position. And I've definitely seen that from obviously my kind of professional athlete eye. And also, I think Thomas Frank's definitely a manager that will step in if he's not seeing something or kind of an action or behaviour from the players that he's wanting. And when we went 1-up today, some of the players were starting to back off a bit and sit back, and we got a little bit deep. And I did see then Thomas Frank kind of going, hey, push forward, come on, we need to press higher, we need to win the ball back. So the actions that he was giving the players was very much team, but also individual. So making the players really accountable for their actions. And then that's where, obviously, at half time, when he got them back in, when we had that probably 10, 15 minutes where Burnley was starting to have more of the ball, they were starting to have more possession in the final third. Half time came in, we definitely reset. We went back out onto the pitch, and you saw that refocus again. It's really interesting when you look at body language, how some of the players kind of just trying to set back and settle for what they've got. And Thomas Frank, like you said, Chris, is obviously wanting to push. Even at 3-0, we were kind of pushing for the ball. Every tackle, every pass counts. Yeah. And I think that's where Thomas Frank is completely different in the last 2 or 3 managers, where he's wanting that real commitment to the cause, obviously winning that next tackle, making that pass complete, and also kind of making people accountable as a team, which is it's fantastic to see. I didn't really, when he was appointed, I was trying to think about what the board was seeing, because obviously not a serial winner, not somebody with that real track record. But I think his management skills, his communication skills was something that obviously the board warmed to. And then obviously his methodology, mission and a principle around putting teams together, making teams better, making players better is something that Tottenham has always wanted to look for. And if we're now adding to the team that we've got, I feel we've got a real good chance of doing something special. Like Paulinho said after the defeat in the final, he feels that the team coming together as one can really do something special this season. I think we probably could.
It does seem, though, Rich, doesn't it, that Thomas Frank is exceptionally good at picking out people's, positives in their game and getting the best out of players, because we have seen that so often. And also the ability to communicate with different kinds of people. I think when your expectations are this is how I deliver and everybody needs to listen,
it doesn't work. It doesn't work. You've got players from different nationalities, different ages, different abilities to learn and communicate. And I think that's where Thomas Frank's put a team around him that you can trust, that he's worked with over a long time, so he knows their strengths. And I think what's happening is those individuals are really integrating themselves within the team. So it's a real kind of lose together, win together mentality. But I can see the energy, how the energy is transferring. The team looks a lot more together. I know they talked about last season about obviously everybody bought into that and Postecoglou's kind of way of management, but I think it is different. It does feel different even at this early stage. We need to give them time. We need to, obviously, when we've got those kind of challenging moments where maybe we do lose and how we bounce back from that. But I think we've already shown that against Burnley today after the PSV game. When you think about it, we only just played a really tough game, and then come back at home and then respond to that with some changes, some fresh legs, fresh ideas is really key. And I think for me as well, that's the reason why we're going to be successful this season, that we're going to have options, we're going to have players on the bench that are going to make that impact, have those different weapons that we can utilise, but also the players are really going to stand up through the season. Yeah, absolutely. I'll come back to you on a couple of those points as well, Rich. Hollie, let's get your thoughts on the game. I know Ricky and Rich are great talkers. Look, we're 20 minutes in. Sorry, Hollie. Hollie, let's get your thoughts on the game. And also, I want to get your thoughts on the appointment of Thomas Frank. Were you excited when he was appointed manager? And what have you made of pre-season in this first game today?
I was going to say, hindsight's a beautiful thing, because obviously when the rumours came out that Frank was going to be our new manager, I wasn't that excited. And that probably was because I'm a Spurs fan, not a football fan, which sounds horrific. But I don't really watch a lot of football elsewhere. Apologies for the thing I barst on the door. But I am excited now because I can see the vision. It's taken me a long time. I was one of these people that wanted to see season 3 under Ange. But I also knew in my head that was going to be a very bad idea, just as the way we played in the Premier League. But with Frank, you can kind of see what he wants to do. He changes it up mid-game. I had no idea who was going to start in that lineup. Whereas with the Ange kind of regime, you kind of knew who was going to pretty much be on the sheet. I know injuries played a big hand into that. But today I had no idea how we were going to set up, because I think Danso was brilliant against PSG. Didn't feature in the starting 11 or didn't come on. But I also knew that today, although PSG are a different kettle of fish, but I knew Burnley weren't going to be at that same kind of criteria. But I do get what Frank was saying post-match, in a sense that every game in the Premier League is difficult. And for me, it was just nice to kind of see us actually have a bit of free-flowing football, whereas before it's normally gung-ho, and you're kind of on the edge of your seat for the wrong kind of reasons, because the ball's in our half, in our box and in the back of our own net. So, yeah, I was not excited to have Frank, but now I can fully get behind it. It's still very early, but the biggest thing for me was the fact that, well, no, we'll probably get onto it, but was having Kudus and having Johnson on the other wing. It's so unusual to see Johnson actually have a go and try and beat a player, and not necessarily be successful all the time, but know when to put a ball into the box. And I think that helps with what Ricky and Richard were saying with Richarlison, and how he is bringing a different element into his game. And that is because we're seeing under Frank that it is early days, but we're seeing something different. And I'm not sure what I'm going to expect. I don't know if Kudus is going to run down a line, beat a man, put a cross in, or whether he's going to pass it back to Pedro, and then Pedro put a ball into the back into the box. So for me, it's that kind of change and adaptability that I think we missed heavily last season, definitely in the Premier League. So I am now very excited, but I couldn't sit and lie and say I was excited, if that makes sense.
Yeah, can I just address a couple of comments in the comments section here on YouTube? Because I think a lot of people feel like we're going to just diss what Ange Postecoglou did in the couple of seasons he was with us and the 22 league defeats. I'm not going to sit here as the host of this podcast ever and diss Ange Postecoglou. He gave me one of the best nights of my life, and that parade was unbelievable. So I am never, ever going to sit here and say Ange this, Ange that. if, in fact, I would only ever compliment Ange on what he done at the football club. So we're here to talk about Thomas Frank because he is our new manager, and hopefully this football club can move forward and deliver more trophies and success. And I'm very excited. Like Hollie said about Mohamed Kudus. I know, Ricky, you were very excited about the signing, and when he went to West Ham, I think you and I both wanted him at Spurs instead. But what a talented player he is! I feel like he is going to be an exceptional player for us this season if all of our players can stay fit, obviously. And like I keep saying on a daily basis on all of the news videos that I put out, if Thomas Frank is backed in this window, then I believe we could fight on all fronts like the Bald and Thomas Frank want. But a couple of really decent Premier League experience signings in this transfer window in the next couple of weeks could make a real difference. And with what we've seen with Thomas Frank so far has been really, really good, and it's making more people feel optimistic about the season. Hollie, in terms of the squad, what players so far in pre-season and from today have you been impressed by most? Because I must say, in the games I've seen, Sarr looks a different player. He looks to be much more improved under Thomas Frank in these last couple of weeks, certainly. Richarlison, you could say today from the finishing, and I think it was Richard who mentioned it about taking his opportunity, hitting it first time. I feel like Timo Werner used to be like that as well. If he hit it first time, it would go in, but if he didn't, he thought about it. I know it's a bad comparison, but Rich, you still with us?
I thought we were going to go a whole season without talking about that muppet.
Hollie, forget the Timo Werner bit. I'll edit that out.
No worries.
Who's impressed you so far, mainly in pre-season and from today?
I mean, I can't not say Kudus because he has been unreal. He's a player that you kind of sit there and get off your feet because he's taken a player one-on-one. I know that he said in his post-match that that's what he wants to do as a winger, and that is naturally what a winger does. So for me, Kudus has been unreal. So thank you, West Ham, for that. But he just is awesome, and I can't wait to see him flourish even more. I mean, first game, 2 assists in today, and in pre-season as well. He's absolutely rinsing players like in the PSG game that you think not levels above him, but have played at a top level for a long period of time in the season just gone, and he's just rinsed them. So Kudus, definitely Sarr. I mean, the man has got an absolute engine on him. The way he kind of tracks back, moves forward, and then puts passes in behind. I absolutely love the kid. And like you say, he's still very young. And I think that's something I kind of forget as well, that a lot of these boys are very young and they're pulling off performances like that. We've still got so much more to come from them. And like we said as well, obviously Richarlison, I think he is going to have a new lease of life underneath him this season. And I also think if we can kind of keep him fit as well, with the rotation of Solanke and the fact that we keep talking about the fact that Frank can kind of change that front three or can mix it up a little bit. I feel like if we keep him fit, he could be a real gem. But yeah, and then I don't want to steal all of the players, but Archie Gray, I think as well, because we've seen him all last season play in so many different positions. It's so nice to actually see him play where he's naturally supposed to be, if that makes sense. And again, I just can't wait for it. I think that that middle three works superbly today. And then you forget all the players that you can kind of bring in and mix it up even more with Bentancur, et cetera, et cetera. So yeah, I'd probably say those 3, which I kind of cheated on because you already said those names, Chris, but that's who I'd kind of go with.
Well, I feel like a lot of us feel the same. And you're right about Archie Gray, given that opportunity in midfield today, because Thomas Frank clearly is a big fan of him because he tried to buy him at Brentford. Ricky, let's come to you. Let's talk about the starting 11 today. Vicario, Porro, Romero, Van der Ven, Spence. Of course, Romero is captain. Sarr, Gray, Bergvar, Kudus, Richarlison and Johnson. And subs today, Bentancur, Danso, Davis, Kinski, Polinia, Odegaard, Solanke, Tell and Bluskovic. He clearly had to make some changes, Rick, didn't he, today? Because like Hollie mentioned there, Wednesday, that Super Cup final against PSG, that was no friendly. That was a super competitive game and the players worked their socks off.
Yeah, absolutely. And I didn't know who he was going to go with today. But switching out with Gray, Bergvar and Johnson in there, you know what? They kind of redeemed. Well, Gray and Bergvar, they kind of redeemed themselves from the other night. When they came out, I felt that when they made subs in the Super Cup, we we lost all of our strength and we lost all of the problems that we was creating for PSG and their quality, like Hollie was saying, you know, because they are of high quality. When you've got 9 players on the Ballon d'Or list, you can tell that they are a very amazing team, you know, if not 80 to 100 million pound players in every position. So you saw the jumping quality against them, but for them to come in today and play the way that they did and show what they're about, and for Thomas to trust them in the first game of the of the season, absolutely fantastic. And I think this is where we're at now. We now have the options to rotate, and after the trials and tribulations of last year, you know, Gray, who played in 121 different positions, and Bergvar, who we saw just continue to grow week in, week out, month in, month out. You could just see him becoming more expressive and more dynamic and having more effects on games. This year they go in with that confidence, you know. They go in, and I think Papsar is one of those as well that has taken the lessons from last year and gone, all right, cool, I'm going to show you what type of player I'm about. And you're seeing that, you know, the fact that they went through fire and hell and brimstone last year, but still lifted that trophy and still was, you know, managed to celebrate that glory. And I do think that gave everybody a push and lifted their level. You saw it against the Super Cup. The only disappointing and deflating thing against the Super Cup was that we was in it for 80 minutes and it just dropped off right at the end, and then it's a lottery when it goes to penalties. But we were the better side for the majority of the game. So you can see that level has been pushed a little bit, you know, mentality wise. How many times have we been on here and spoken about mentality and winners mentality and what a first trophy can do, and we all hope that can happen, and we all hope that they can push on, and you're seeing that. And also, I mean, you've got to see, you know, you were talking about there's some in the comments. I can't see the comments, by the way, but you were saying that there's some in the comments that were talking about slagging off Ange or this and that. I don't understand why you can't be happy or positive in both of our managers right now. I don't know why it's got to be one or the other. I mean, you can see that Thomas has built on that win, that Europa League win, and he's pushing this side in a different direction. I'm so happy to see the balance of the team, the quality in being a unit throughout, from defense, from midfield, up front. You can see these patterns of play now. There's so much balance in attack and defense, and we don't look like we're just putting 2 banks of 4 and parking the bus. We actually look like we can play a defensive formation, but still be attacking and still use it to the strengths of our squad and stuff like that. So you've got to thank Ange, and you're allowed to be happy about Ange, and you're allowed to be, some will never accept it because of the 22 defeats, but you can be happy with what he's done, and you can then be happy with what Frank's bringing to the table. You know, you're allowed to do that. We're a football fan. The one thing that every single football fan is going to be at one point in time, if not more, is wrong. Whether that's about a player, whether that's about a situation, whether about the club, there's going to be moments that we're wrong. Every single one of us, you know. So it's okay. It's okay to love Ange and be excited about what's to come. It's okay to be positive about what we saw today without it slagging off Ange or without it like looking for a negative. People are saying it's just Burnley. That's okay, man. Like, it's okay to be positive about the positive things that we saw and to highlight them and be happy about it. It's day one in the Premier League. We, you know, like we say, there was so many positives throughout from top to bottom, clean sheet as well. Like, it's okay. We know there's going to be dark days at some point, and we'll have that discussion then. But right now, we can see so many good things that it's okay to be happy about it.
Exactly. It is okay to smile. It is okay to be happy. I know you have to say it to some people sometimes, but you know, on the 23rd of May, Rick, you know, me and you were standing in a plant pot. Ange gave us that moment. So
A Bill and Ben moment, right?
That trophy parade was unreal. So and Andrew's rubbing shoulders with Keith Birkinshaw and Bill Nicholson. Being one of the only 3 managers in their history to lift a European trophy. So, full respect to the man. And you won't hear us, or certainly not me and Ricky, I might add. We might have the odd guest come on and say something about Ange, but we certainly, as the main hardcore of the podcast, you won't hear us slagging the manager off when he's delivered us a trophy. But it's about moving forward now as a football club, and it is about trying to be more successful, delivering more trophies, because I tell you what, as a fan, we want more moments like that because they were wonderful. Richard, regarding the starting 11 today, what did you make of it, and how are you feeling going into this game? When that starting 11 came out, how are you feeling?
I've been to a few games against Burnley the last couple of seasons, and I know they're not easy to break down. So obviously there's quite a bit of criticism, obviously with the injuries that we've got around, the creativity and how we break down. Obviously those teams like Burnley that do sit in, that it's it's about how you break those down and move the ball very quickly. I think today we set a stall very well from the start. And I think the players, because of the energy that Hollie and Ricky talked about the kind of real press, the running off the ball, the closing down, really did put Burnley under a lot of pressure on the ball, and they gave the ball away quite a bit within that first period. So obviously Bergvar had that chance where I thought he might have played. He just nipped in, and I thought he might have scored, which was fantastic. I like him. I know you got a lot of praise last year. I think maybe it's a little bit too early for that praise, but I think we were so terrible that he was the best of the bad bunch. I think, but for me, he's going to be a great player. But yes, regarding the starting 11, I think it was inevitable after the long game that we did have within the Super Cup that there would be some change, especially in those positions where there's a lot of running to be done. I think Papsar, obviously, he was always going to play. Fantastic player. I think the difference between him last year and the year before and this year, again, it's around those kind of key messages to him. And again, you can kind of really see he's not just going through players. He's pressing. He's then kind of closing down angles. He's making those runs at certain times of the game. It's not like wacky races. It's not like 100 miles an hour all through the game. It's those controlled efforts, which is fantastic to see. And obviously, when the ball's turned over, he's then got a different position in the game where he's now breaking forwards, kind of that number 10, getting in the box. He scored goals in pre-season. And that's a new part of his game. So he's always been a player that wants to kind of get in the box and shoot on target. But I think now it's more about actually utilising that opportunity. So I think his game, again, like Richarlison, where the management teams come in and go, Richarlison, this is what we want you to do. We want shoot on side. That's it. It's not about having 2 or 3 touches and shooting. It's about going straight away. I think Papsar, for me, I think he's had different messages this year around how he utilises that energy. Regarding the starting 11, I think the back four picks itself at the moment. I think Thomas Frank's obviously looking at the team around that formation, and I think against teams such as the Man Cities, Liverpool's, Chelsea's of this world, I think he'll change slightly, maybe like he did against PSG. But that midfield kind of quartet is what he's looking for, as in not necessarily just singular players that goes in, but actually how they interact, how they work together, those kind of triangles that they make. Polino is going to be key to it. I tell you, when he's up to match fitness, I know he's a world-class player. People forget he's a World Cup winner with Portugal, world-class player, fantastic individual, like turning over possession. He played hardly any football over the last 18 months and then plays all that time against PSG and makes that impact. So he's a player for me that I'm very excited about. And then some other additions that come in can only make us stronger. But that team today was I think, a very specific team for Burnleys of this world. And then I also liked that when Kudus has kind of done his thing, games won, take him off. You can't. I think one of the criticisms of the manager before was that even when the players were carrying an injury, were knackered, they were in the starting 11. They were just running to the ground.
Yeah.
And some of the other players that were on the periphery didn't feel really part of that team. They felt that they were a player that come on and make an impact. Well, saying you're an impact player really means you're not good enough for the starting 11. For me, you're good enough for the starting 11. You sit on the bench, but you're used in a different way. It's a different way of framing the kind of the team.
Hollie, going on to what Richard said there about Thomas Frank using his squad entirely, because he said in the press conference yesterday that he's not afraid to make 5 subs. He's actually a fan of making 5 subs in a game. And interestingly, Yves Bissouma was not on the sub bench today against Burnley. Do you feel like his time at the club has come to an end now?
I think so. The trouble is, obviously, with everything that's kind of gone on, etc., I would assume he wants to stay at the club, but it gets to a point where we already have the likes of Bentancur, which I think once he had his injury, he wasn't at the same levels that he was before, but I think he's slowly getting back into that rhythm. And I think prior to this, I think the position that we saw him play last season wasn't really his natural kind of position. I feel like he's better suited when he's got someone that sits behind him and kind of has that one that gets the nitty gritty of winning the ball back, but can kind of rotate as well, if that makes sense. So I do think Bissouma is probably not in Frank's plans. The fact that obviously he kind of missed the PSG game, then isn't in this one, I don't really see it going very well for him further on. And I think as well that the kind of way that we're kind of setting our game up, rightly so, that Richard said, we've got so many different players that bring so many different attributes. I just don't think we need a Bissouma when we've already got Rodrigo Bentancur, we've already got Archie Gray, we've already got Polinia, who kind of fit that same sort of mould. And I don't think, sadly, Bissouma was ever the same since he kind of lost his head a little bit with getting that red card. I don't think he's ever been back to what he was, which is a real shame, because when we bought him, we thought he was going to go and fully on excel himself. But I just think timing with the way that we were kind of setting up things last season, the season before, I think he's fallen out of kind of what Frank wants. And again, it is still too soon. So I might be sat here and he might still be in the team next week. But right now, right here, I feel that it isn't quite what Frank wants, and more the fact that he just isn't being put in the squad.
I think there might be some other factors there as well around kind of contract-wise, also misdemeanors with trainings. Obviously, I read recently about missing training or being late for training.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure a manager such as Thomas Frank really accepts any of that. I've never heard any of the players at Brentford kind of say that he's not a disciplinarian. He's not somebody that has high expectations. So if you've got one player out of a whole team that's being late regularly, I don't think that's going to work well for him, especially as his contract's now running down. That I think he might be one of the ones that exit the team towards the end of the window.
But you know what? You have to, when you turn up as a manager, you have to set out your stall, right?
You've
got to set out your rules and your boundaries.
Yeah.
And if Bissouma's going to fall off like that, you've got to hold him to account.
Yeah.
And by the sounds of it within the press conference, it didn't sound like it was the first time that he was late. It sounded like he was late a couple of times. Now, under Ange, what did Ange say to him? You could be a big influence in this squad. You know, you could lead the young ones here. They could look to you. And what happened? Yes, boss. And next day he was late. When we first bought him, I was super excited to get Bissouma when we did. And he was the one I was the most excited about in that window. And it was under Conte, wasn't it? And, you know, Conte just didn't play him. And I was confused. I was like, what's going on here? The majority of the time he didn't play under him. And I was like, and I think now, with hindsight, that he was probably late back then, and Conte, being a disciplinarian, was just like, no, get him out. I know what the guy's about, and he's not here for the team. We've then gone through under Ange, and there's been so many. How many apologies has he given us, the fans? whether it's a statement, whether it's a tweet, whether he's gone up to the fans after the balloon incident and he's like, I'm sorry. Like you say about the red card, you know, there's so many things where, and look, there were moments last year that he did play well, but they were very far and few between. And there was many a times that we conceded goals through him giving away the ball. You know, when we was on transition, when everybody had just pushed up, he would give away the ball, a silly mistake for somebody of his quality, and we would concede goals and stuff like that. So there's only so many chances you can give to a person, and it's up to them whether they want to take it or not. But Frank starting out as a new manager in a new club, this is the example now that he puts up. And he goes, guys, you're either with us or you're against us. And if you're against us, then you end up on that list. But if you're with us, then let's go get 3 goals, 3 points, and a clean sheet. Do you know what I mean?
It's terrible being late, Ricky, isn't it, when you're meeting people?
I don't know what you're talking about, huh? Do you know what? You just cut out, you know? I can't.
Yeah, I thought I might.
Huh? What happened?
Other results in the Premier League today: Aston Villa 0, Newcastle 0, Brighton 1, Fulham 1, Sunderland beat West Ham 3-0, and a real statement win from Manchester City at Molineux, beating Wolves 4-0. So they go top of the Premier League after one game. Richard, let's come to you. Let's talk about the match instance now. Now, from the very first minute, Spurs started really strong. Johnson crossing in from the left, it was headed away. Bergvar then had a shot saved. After 3 minutes, what an interesting one this was. The goalkeeper holding on to the ball for too long. And then the referee then gave Spurs a corner. What do you make of that new rule?
Yeah, it's going to definitely keep the game moving, isn't it? And goalkeepers are not going to be able to mess around with a ball in the penalty area. I think it's a bit of a, I don't know. I don't like the kind you hold on the ball, you get a corner, but I think it holds the keepers to account. And how many times have we had it where we're kind of chasing a game and teams are playing like the dark arts, as they're called, and wasting time left, right, and centre. So I think hopefully if it gets rid of some of those kind of actions, that's great. But I think obviously we started really well. Expectation was obviously against a team like Burnley would do that. We wanted to kind of dust the cobwebs away from obviously the disappointment of the final, and actually the home fans deserve that kind of performance, that inspiring momentum performance that's going to showcase what's going to happen for the rest of the season. We can't have like lethargic players, and I think that's probably why, like Hollie was saying, with players that actually turn up late or are indisciplined, they're just not going to be around the squad. They're going to be shown the door, and we're going to get better, more committed players that can really elevate the team into, like what you say, Chris, about obviously further success with cups. We'll have those opportunities, those special moments, if we are a team. And towards the end of last season, with that success in the cup, that was because we were together, fans, players, staff, and that's what we would need to be this season. And that's why that first 15 minutes was so important this year. You look at some of the other teams that have played today, the West Hams of this world, that performance today is going to really hurt not only the fans, but also the team, because they know they're going to be in for a long season if it's going to be like that. If you set your season up, first 15 minutes, first game, whoever it's against, you need to really showcase what you're about as a team. And we showed today. And a lot of pundits on Sky Sports were talking about the performance today. It really did show that Thomas Frank means business at Spurs.
Yeah. Rich, let's stay with you. After 6 minutes, Burnley had a shot which went wide after a long throw-in. And when I read the stats out at the start of the podcast, shots, Spurs had 16, Burnley had 14. Shots on target, Spurs had 6 to Burnley's 4. Burnley had opportunities and chances today. What did you make of them today?
Yeah, I think they had opportunities, but weren't clinical. I think obviously the quality was completely different. I think in certain kind of playing circumstance, we had obviously like Mickey kind of get us out of a couple of sticky situations where they're quicker players were kind of bursting through our lines, and Mickey cleared the ball a couple of times. Burnley are going to struggle as a team this year, and undoubtedly in the Premier League with the quality that most of the teams have got. And you look at Burnley, they've got a lot of younger players, very similar to Ipswich last season. But then going back to teams like an Ipswich and a Leicester, they beat us at home last year. Do you know what I mean? It's like when you think about those. So that's why it's great that we're obviously celebrating the result today. But I also think it's not only do we need to put it in perspective, but it's 3 points that last season would have been a real struggle. Last season. I think this year, with the whole dynamics, the framework of the team, it not only when we go 1-0 up, we're looking for further goals and kind of to see off teams, but we're seeing them off in a way that isn't making us as vulnerable as we were last season. Some of the old traits, some of the old behaviours of last season are going to still be there, and it's going to take time. It's going to take time for Thomas Frank to continually educate the players around what his expectations are. But today was a great start. I was closely looking at some of the younger players and what they were doing, and there were certain times like Jed Spence was sometimes going to want to overcommit, but then he wasn't. He was coming back, and he was Thomas Frank was giving him a lot of information from the sidelines. I said when we actually got Jed that eventually he'd show his real talent. He started to do that. He's a really good player, and when you get kind of the Jed Spence that can do his thing, I think he could be somebody that actually does challenge for that starting position the whole season.
Yeah.
And I think we've got a player that's injured in that position. He's slotted in, and I think it's his chance. Take your chance now. And for me, that's what's really important. That's why the first 15 minutes today was so important for me. I was like, when I was watching the game, I was like, this is really important for the season, this first 15 minutes. Let's see what these players can do, these young players can do, and set the real tone for the rest of the season.
It's a great point about Jed Spence you make there, Rich. And Hollie, let's come to you on this, because I don't feel like anyone has ever said it, especially on this podcast, that Jed Spence is out of position. He's made that his own. You know, when Destiny Doggy doesn't play and he fits in at left back, I don't think anyone's ever said it on here that he's out of position. He's an exceptional footballer, just about to, apparently he's signed the contract already, and the announcement is imminent from Spurs that he signed a new contract. But you think it was only a little while ago that Spurs were going to offload him, and he improves every single week, doesn't he, Hollie?
He's immense. He really is. And like you say, the fact that isn't his natural position, just imagine what he'd be like on the other side as well. It's a great aspect to have, in a sense that when you are needed in a position, you can kind of fit into it and make it your own, and not actually think that no, that's not actually my preferred side, which is a true testament to him. And also, we go back to obviously talking about mentality and finding this real bond within the team. That's what you kind of do when you've got a player that's injured, and you're like, right, we've got this position. I think you do pretty well there. It's your time to step up. It just kind of shows you what assets we've kind of got in this team. And like I say, maybe, I know last season Pedro Porro played a lot of minutes. Maybe this season we might see Frank mix it up and stick Spence on his natural preferred side, just to give Pedro Porro a little bit of a break. But no, he is phenomenal. And I think the biggest thing for me as well, that he's now slowly starting to use his strength a bit more. And I think, like Richard was saying, like he's learning, not just from Frank, but from Ange as well, that sometimes you've got to be a little bit more tactical in what you're trying to do. Whether you might not beat this player to the ball, that's fine. I'm going to put my body in the line then instead. And I think that's something in football that sometimes we kind of forget. And yeah, like I said, I don't think I can say any more on the guy. He's incredible. And I love it as well when we see his sister in the crowd. Again, it gives that real family kind of thing together.
I think one thing we do forget is the pairing as well. Like Johnson, Spencer, obviously Spence, on that side, because of obviously history at Forest, and that being able to work together around strengths and weaknesses, about knowing each other. I think sometimes we forget how important that is, and I think that's why he's when he's over that side with Johnson ahead of him, that makes a difference, because they've got that kind of communication where they know they can work together, to positive and negative, towards taking the ball up the pitch. those if you notice that those crossovers that we're doing, that was quite key today. And I think obviously on the other side, Porro and Mohamed Kudus, that's going to be immense. Like, I think that is going to be a really good partnership. Really good partnership.
Hollie, let's come back to you. Let's talk about Tottenham's first goal of the game after 10 minutes. And I must say, I'm really pleased that Spurs got an early goal, because I spoke to so many Spurs fans at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium today before the game. And some of them were feeling very optimistic about the season. Some of them were like, well, I don't know what to expect. Some people were thinking that we were going to absolutely smash Burnley today, 4-5, 6-0. I heard that some people say. Some people thought it would be a professional performance to win, 2-3-0. But to settle the nerves after 10 minutes to get that goal, how important was the timing of the goal? And of course, I know we've all raved about Mohamed Kudus already and Richarlison, but what a great combination it was today, certainly. But the work from Mohamed Kudus to lay it on a plate for Richarlison and for him to hit it first time, incredible.
Oh, just unreal. And I think that's the thing as well, because I was kind of stuck in two minds. I was like, well, we're either going to absolutely batter them or it's going to be a really close game. And I'm just really glad, especially at that moment in time when we were up. I know you mentioned earlier, like within the first kind of couple of minutes, we had that Bergvar chance. And I was thinking, right, today's the day we need to be clinical, boys. Let's sort it out. But as soon as Kudus kind of had that ball, managed to drop a shoulder and put the ball into the net, into the penalty spot, I was kind of thinking, I think Richie's a little bit too far forward. But then you kind of see him swivel and he knows exactly where the goal is and smack it, obviously, into the back of the net. But it was just a great combination. And I know we've spoken, obviously, a lot as well about Richie, but it was just that instinct. I think we all kind of know that he's got it within him. We just haven't seen enough of it. And I know that he's been riddled with injuries. And people will say, he can never find that kind of run of form. But he has scored a few goals for Spurs in his time he's been at the club. He just can never find that kind of run. So I'm just glad that obviously he managed to get that one. And I know we're getting to it later, but the second one as well, just give him a world of confidence. And again, it's just a great combo. And I love it when we're getting crosses into the box now, because there's so many times last season that you just want a ball to be whipped in, especially with the height of Solanke and Richarlison. It was just a no-brainer for me. But yeah, a brilliant way to start the game.
Okay, Hollie, here's one for you. So after Richie's display today and that goal-scoring ability today, do we need a striker in this summer transfer window?
See, these questions are so hard because we could potentially be one kind of injury away from absolute explosion again. I think if we do get Eze, which I really hope so does happen, I think we might be okay. These might be my famous last words. But to see what Richie kind of has today, if he keeps that form and can stay fit, I reckon he could have an absolute blinder of a season. But again, me being the jinx I am, I probably jinxed it now. So Spurs, go do what you want, mate. Just get Eze in first.
After 13 minutes, Burnley had a chance, headed over the bar. On 23 minutes, Matisse Tell came off the bench to warm up. He had a great reception from the North Stand at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. Ricky, I hope you don't mind me coming to you on this subject. Of course, he had a lot of racial abuse online. I think it was a mixture of Tottenham fans and non-Tottenham fans on Instagram on Wednesday after missing the penalty. Can I ask you about, firstly, what have you thought of Matisse Tell? Of course, he's still a very young player. He's got a lot of talent, but I think a lot of Spurs fans feel that he's not the ready-made player that perhaps a lot of Spurs fans wanted at the time of him signing. And what do the authorities need to do, particularly the social media accounts, to stop this kind of thing happening again and again? Because it just seems like we're hearing this again and again, particularly last night when I watched the Liverpool v Bournemouth game, to see the referee stop the game for more racial abuse. This just has to stop.
Yeah, it does. But you know what? Unfortunately, Chris, I don't think it's ever going to. I really don't. I mean, I've grown up and every single season I've seen it. And, I've seen the kick out of racism, Troy Townsend as well, who's been campaigning for years. I know he doesn't do it anymore, but he's been campaigning for years about it. It's been a massive issue. Now, I know, like, when I was growing up, it was abhorrent. There was at those moments we was getting like bananas on the field and stuff like that, which was just horrendous, and it was a lot more volatile. What I would say is that the majority are attention seekers. The majority are saying something so vile to get some attention, even if that's negative attention or even as a look from a player. And I know it makes no sense, and it doesn't make sense to most of us. But what I can say is that the positive, the ones that understand, the ones that don't judge a player or a person on the color of their skin or on their race or on their religion or anything like that, that judge them on their character and their morals and who they are as a person, you can drown them out. You know, as much as there's one person saying something horrendous, and there might be 15 people saying something horrendous. Well, I know that there's a lot more of us that would praise and lift up and support and carry and, you know, encourage Matisse Tell or encourage a player, especially playing for Tottenham. But we've done it. We've done it for Bukayo Saka after, what was it, the Euros, when, you know, I think it was a friendly, or I can't remember what, it might have been the first game.
Yeah, it was a friendly, yeah.
Was it a friendly? Yeah, okay. And, you know, the Tottenham crowd, all of them, they stood up and they clapped him. And that's what we need to recognize a bit more as well. The fact that one horrible voice shouldn't be able to drown out 50,000 of us, you know, that are in that stadium. One abhorrent kind of sentence written online shouldn't be the one that resonates for longer in Matisse's memory. You know what I mean? It should be the ones that are saying, I love you, bro. I've got you. We're backing you. We can see you trying. We can see you doing. And, you know, well done for stepping up to take a penalty. Well done on kind of taking that responsibility and taking that weight on your shoulders to go out there. Okay, you missed, but so did Van der Ven. You know, and the only difference there is that Van der Ven had a tremendous game on Wednesday, and so you can you naturally forgive Van der Ven, but having a young player come on and you know, I've always said, you know, we all criticize players left, right, and center, but fair criticism. There's no need to go beyond the line. The only way that we can drown out the few is by coming together as the many. And shouting and encouraging and supporting and doing what a true supporter does. What I would say to Matisse is that, you know, it's not gonna, I don't think it's ever, unfortunately, I just don't think it's ever gonna stop. Negative motivation is out there. Some people would, you know, some people like rage baiting, it's called, you know, saying something totally out of the ordinary, so you get people going, no, that's not right, or blah, 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 and just getting a ton of hate or likes or love or whatever the case may be. But it's a rage bait, and I think the majority of us can stand together and show someone like Matisse that that's not what we're about, and that there's many more of us that love you, and there's many more of us that support you because you wear the cockerel on your chest and you go out there and you try your best. And we've seen his character. Last year, when we was going through it and all of the defeats and all of the injuries, and when the crowd was giving it to Ange, he was the one, a lone player, that came into the crowd and was like, guys, we need you, man. Guys, we need you to have our backs. You know what I mean? Yes, I know it's disappointing. I know we lost, but like, we need you because we've got a big game on Wednesday or Saturday or whatever he was saying. He came out, and that shows me character. That shows me morals. That shows that he had a kind of a respectful upbringing. He's not somebody who looks to, he could have easily kind of given attitude back or dropped his head or scuttled off into the tunnel and go, that's not me. It's not for me to say. But he didn't. He stood up for it, which shows character. Mm. So it's like, what I'd say to him is, use this as fuel, bro. You look at the examples of Brennan Johnson, who's a teammate in your team. You know, Sonny's got racist, comments and racism slung towards him. But you saw both of those people pick up and go, you know what? Let me show you what I'm about. You know what? At the end of this season, we're going to have a song going, you know, tell again, ole, 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 you know, singing his name at some point. So use it as fuel, use it as fire. Go out there and show us what you're about. And to every fan out there, I heard Semenyo got some against Liverpool last night. He got some abuse against Liverpool last night. I haven't seen it. I've just heard that it happened. Don't let the bad kid in the class who's shouting and screaming and not getting on with his work or whatever, don't let him be the distraction for the whole class. Do you know what I mean? Like, stand up, man. Stand up. Those are our true supporters. And to be fair, the crowd in there, and Chris, you was in there, so you give me your testament to it and your witness, because you was witness to it. You was a part of it. But when he came out to warm up, everybody did stand up. There was a big cheer for him. There was an effort and a will to show tell that this is not what we're about, mate. We got you, and we want to see the best for you. He's a young player. He came into the side last year when we was decimated with injuries. He, again, another player that didn't have very much game time whatsoever, but came in and we was putting him in for 90 minutes because we had to. Done the best for us, and still finding his feet in a new country, in a new league, new intensity, new pressure, all of these things. And not only did he kind of be there for us at those points, but he signed for us, and he wants to be a part of this team, and he wants to show us what he is about. A player with immense potential. We haven't seen it yet in a Spurs shirt. We've seen flashes of it, but we haven't seen it yet. But how many players can we say that the same thing about? We've just had a tremendous performance by Richarlison. Somebody who many a times I've said, when he's 1-on-1 on goal, I have the feeling in my heart that he's not going to score. But I've seen a different, from Wednesday and today, I've seen a massive change. So it can change overnight like that. Sonny was another one. End of his first year, there was talks of him leaving. Didn't leave and became the legend that he was, and lifting a trophy last year. It's happened many a time. And even someone like Eze, I saw a video that he was talking about the abuse that he got at QPR and how it affected him, and how he got over it. So, another reason to bring in Eze so he can chat to tell. But it's going to happen, and I don't think it's going to stop. I really don't. And I know that's a sad indictment, but mate, if we're in 2025 and we've got to speak about rubbish opinions and just nasty, negative, the worst that you can say to a player to do what? If some of that's coming from our own fan base, how do you expect him to show his best ever? Do you know what I mean? Why would he want to go out there and put the shirt on and go and make a difference if you're saying certain things about him? That's never going to motivate him. He's here. He's signed. You've got to back him because he wears the shirt and he's got the cockerel on his chest right now, and he wants the best for us as well as himself, as well as his teammates. So who knows?
Can I make a comment about it as well, please? Is that all right? I think Ricky summed up everything that I was kind of thinking about. As a club, you've got standards and everything, but I think as fans, you've got to hold everybody to account, and there's no place in society for any kind of discrimination or racism.
Yep.
And then to come onto the terraces with your so-called fans that support your team, your family, is disgraceful. And I think if you see any discrimination or racism, I think we all have a responsibility to call that out. And the more people that do that, the more that this will be a minority. And like Ricky said, you're always going to get idiots that kind of think they're at home on their own with their own opinions. Those keyboard warriors that get out once every 3 years onto the terraces, want to shout and scream at people that look different than themselves. And for me, it's always about celebrate difference and celebrate kind of who we are as people, whatever colour, whatever sexuality, religion, ability, disability, whatever. We all have those differences. And that's where football, when they cross that white line, it's all about the beautiful game, right? And that's what it should be, not about discrimination and those idiots. So I think we just need to call it out. If we see it on the terraces, we've all got a responsibility to kick it out, to kick them out, to get the authorities to understand here they are, and then ban them for life. It's a ban for life. It's not a year ban, 2 years. Those kind of people shouldn't be around football, whether it's at the domestic level, developmental level, all the way through to international level. We can't be having those idiots around the game, because it sets a real bad taste in the mouth for those individuals who want to enjoy football, because it's the bad side of society, but also young people that are coming into the game that are the future of the game, and now hearing that that's acceptable because people aren't calling it out. We need to call it out from the first instant we hear it. The more people that do that, the better.
Ricky, you will be glad to know, though, that Matisse Tell did receive a lot of love inside the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium today, not only when he got off the bench to warm up, but, of course, when he came on. The fans were singing his name, which was a really nice moment. But, you know, as both you and Richard have said, you know, this should simply not be happening in, you know, not just football, but in life in general. And it's very, very sad that we still live in a world where this is happening. And I'll be honest, I can't believe this is still happening in 2025.
Well, also because football is a thing that brings us all together. How many people have we met from different countries, different cultures, different languages? Do you know,
Absolutely.
Chris, you go all around the world, mate. You know, sometimes you can't speak that language, that the country that you're in. Yeah. But there's a communal language, because we all wear this on our top. We all live and breathe Tottenham. It's a bit like music and food. It brings you together. Yeah. And you know what? The minority doesn't like it when people kind of come together on the same thing. Do you know what I mean? It's always been a thing to divide and conquer. It's never been, you know, I don't know how to explain it properly, but football's supposed to bring us together. That's what it's all about. How many times that I've hugged a person that I haven't got a clue who in a goal celebration. Do you know what I mean? And he's looked at me like I love him, and I've looked at him like I love. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's like that, and you do that, and that's what's beautiful about the game. You know, the fact that it is a team game. Look at how many different nationalities, how many different flags there were when Sonny lifted the trophy. Yeah, that's what a team game is about. That is what we can do when we come together. And it's the same as the fan base. The more that we come together and say this is not right, but also to go above and beyond, to kind of go, no, when we do have things like that, like a missed penalty, that we come together and go, no, we're going to support you through this. You're with us. You was trying to do the best for us, you know? So the more we do that, I think the more we drowned out the nasty negative that hardly anybody listens to, apart from if they're being vile.
Can I just say, on closing on this subject, that the social media companies, and I've said this for the last couple of years certainly as well, because, you know, a lot of people receive abuse online, and it is unacceptable. You know, any kind of abuse online is unacceptable, but these social media companies have to do something sooner rather than later to change this. They really do, and I hope that happens sometime very, very soon. Ricky, coming back to the football and coming back to the game, on 24 minutes, Carl Walker, of course, returned to the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium today. He shot over the bar from 30 yards. On 29 minutes, Burnley had another chance, this time from the left, headed at goal, easy for Vicario. A minute later, Burnley, another good team move from them, resulting in a shot just past the post. And on 37 minutes, Burnley, another good move. It looked like they were clean through on goal, and then Mickey van der Ven, being Mickey van der Ven, his pace, come out of nowhere, cleared it all up. But that spell in the game, Burnley looked like they had a good couple of chances. How are you feeling at that point?
You know what? I wasn't worried. And you knew that every team that we go up against, they're gonna have an opportunity, right? But it's how we deal with it, and I felt that we dealt with it well. You know, not only can we now utilize the strengths of Mickey van der Ven a bit more, you know, he's not always doing those 40-yard sprints now. He's using his sprint to any strength to his benefit. And we're looking like a cohesive unit. All of these things are tests. It tests the tactics that Thomas has put in front of us, and it's also a test for how we not just kind of defend individually, but how we double up, how we triple up. If somebody's gone to a man, are you going to go hit the space in behind so that the space is now covered, so we're not being overrun? And yes, they had opportunities, but honestly, Chris, not at one moment was I really worried that anything was gonna trouble us, because once they get past the back four, they've still got to get past Vic as well. And I just felt that we was absolutely solid. That back five, including the goalkeeper, I thought we was absolutely solid. Great foundation to build on. And when we see, like on Wednesday in Super Cup, when we see that we can switch to a back three as well, and how effective that can run, there is so many options within that defense, and you can see that they're enjoying these challenges. But there is a clear focus on keeping the line and being disciplined and moving together. When one of the back line moves, the rest of them go with it, so that we're not caught out. So there's still things to work on, absolutely. But we're in a healthy position, and with somebody who's an analyst, who really analyzes the game throughout the minutes and the seconds. Someone like Frank, we're only going to improve. We're only going to take the lesson. Do you know what I mean? Appreciate it, but go, yeah, even though we got a clean sheet today, we could have done that particularly a bit better. And I think that's just, again, encouraging and exciting for what's to come.
Yeah, absolutely. Rich, let's come to you. After 40 minutes, Mohamed Kudus, good work from him, teed up Jed Spence perfectly, who hit the ball over the bar. I don't know whether we can overpraise a player, over talk about a player, but Mohamed Kudus, I tell you what, I'm really excited about him this season. And, the way that he can, of course, he got a couple of assists on his Premier League debut today for Richarlison, but the way that he teed up Jed Spence there, if he can do this all season and tee our players up to be shooting from range or even from close range, we're going to be in for some good times.
Yeah, for sure. And again, it's about kind of behaviours from the start. He obviously said the only team we want to come to was us from the start. Those kind of actions, again, it's about setting the mood of why players coming to you. They're not coming to you for money or because you just won a cup competition. He's coming because he wants to be part of this new age that Thomas Frank's kind of bringing together. And I think also his energy is infectious across the team. I think players like him, it's not just you're not just getting his performance, you're getting the kind of the sprinkle of stardust that he's also sprinkling on his side of the pitch as well as the rest of the team. And you also heard the crowd on some of the things he was doing, the holding players off, the crunching tackles, the winning the ball back, the runs. He's an exciting player. I think when he's got the ball and he's moving with the ball, it reminded me a bit about with Dembele as well. When Dembele had the ball and he was like running through people and the crowd was kind of building the energy. That's what I was kind of hearing. I was hearing the crowd kind of go like, Kudus has got the ball and he's kind of just beat a player and now he's off with it. And what's he going to do? Is he going to cut it back or is he going to drive into the box? And I think probably Frank's seen obviously that side is going, actually, this is who he is at the moment. But I still, if you listen to him around when he first came to the club, he said, oh, great player, but he's also got areas to improve. And I think obviously one of those will be obviously finishing in goals, but also that confidence in front of goal. He's got a great finish on him, and also I think he's also a great team player, which we definitely needed. And he's somebody that not only the fans get really excited about, but I think also his teammates. They're seeing how much work and energy he's putting into the team, and the rest of the team are having to respond to that as well. They see. Well, when somebody goes into a team that's a level above, everybody thinks that we're going to have to elevate our performance levels as well.
£55 million signing, though, Rich. It could be a very, very good bit of business from Tottenham.
For sure. In this market, you look at some of the players that are £55 million kind of signings for the clubs, and you kind of you do look at some of the players that are around that bracket and the Alangas of this world, etc. And I think we've got a real gem there. I think I'm positive we have. I do like Pedro that's gone to Chelsea. I think he's a really good player, but more of a player that will give you more kind of quality in the box. But I think Mohamed Kudus, he brings more to the team. He brings more to the team offensively. Also, his work ethic, getting back and working with his right back as well. And I'm pleased with how he started. I think sometimes when a player comes in, you always get that lift of we've got a new player and we're really excited. But I'm positive this is not just a short-term thing. This is a thing where he's a young player. He's got the enthusiasm to be better. I think he's been sold this project of where Spurs can go as a team, and I think he wants to be an integral part of that.
Hollie, what did you make of Vicario's save in the 43rd minute? It looked like being a very routine and easy save. And then it went out for a corner. It was, I think that was the most bizarre moment of the game, wasn't it? Hollie, you're on mute.
You can tell I haven't done this for a while. I was going to say, it was bizarre. And it was almost in a sense that you could tell he hadn't had much to do most of the game. I think it kind of caught him off guard. I know it took a little bit of deflection, which made the ball go back the wrong way, which kind of put him off a bit. But I was a bit taken back by the fact that he just looked so uncomfortable with it and he didn't really know what to do with himself. And then he always does the Vicario thing and then starts shouting at other people to try and ignore people of what he's just done. But yeah, it was really bizarre. And I think it was because up until that point, he didn't really have much to do. And I don't think he kind of backed himself because he wasn't too sure where it was going.
Hollie, how excited are you by the signing of Mohamed Kudus? Because, of course, we went in 1-0 up. After 49 minutes, Spurs had another chance, and the chance ended up going over the bar from a header from Van de Ven. But it was another delivery from Mohamed Kudus. He seems to be at the heart of all of our creative play at the moment. Thomas Frank said that he could also play in the number 10 role. I know we're going to talk about the possible signing of Eze, and Spurs have wanted a number 10 to be signed in this transfer window. Of course, we didn't get the Morgan Gibbs-White deal over the line, unfortunately. Where do you see Mohamed Kudus' best position on the pitch?
I think right now it's out on the wing. It's his first game in the Prem in a Tottenham shirt, and he's produced two fantastic crosses to be two great assists. And like you said, there was loads throughout that whole game. So while it's not broken, keep it as it is. I think, like you say, if we get Eze in, it's a no-brainer that he will stay out on the wing. I think it will then become just a little bit difficult when we've got UCL games coming up thick and fast, domestic cup games, etc., etc. Then we might have to tamper with it for a little bit. But I think while we just have Prem games to worry about at the moment, I'd keep him out on that wing because he just adds something that we've missed for a very long time. Because I don't think Brennan Johnson is that winger. We spoke about it all the time. He always does get a goal in the back of the net, but that's because he's always found back post. I never really see Brennan Johnson take a player on. I mean, apart from today, it was a little bit different because obviously he had the strength to have that ball through. I know we'll probably get onto it. But for me, having a winger that wants to take on his man, likes a 1v1, but can actually produce it as well, is something, it's just refreshing to see, and it gets you off your seat. And then just add something different to our game rather than, right, let's go back, let's try the other way, let's go back again. So yeah, I'm all for it. Kudus is phenomenal, and I can't wait for him to carry on kicking it on throughout the rest of the season.
Hollie, let's stay with you. After 52 minutes, Bergvar had a shot which was blocked, and then the rebound was then deflected wide. What did you make of Bergvar today? Because, of course, he cleaned up all of the awards, the supporter awards last season. A player with real potential. What do you expect to see from him this campaign?
so much more. We saw glimpses of it today. He was just incredible. And I think it's because we've got that young kind of unit within the midfield. It kind of allowed him to express himself a few more times. I think today my favourite bit was, I can't remember where he was on the pitch, but he managed to switch the ball with the outside of his boot. And that's the thing that's stuck in my mind.
Yeah.
The geezer's got so much talent. And I think we are going to see the best of him this season, especially like I keep going on about the fact that we can mix it up because now we've got so many different players that add so many different things. I'm just really, really excited. And like I say, the sky is the limit for the kid.
Rich, let's come to you. Let's talk about Tottenham's second goal, Richarlison's second goal. What a goal it was.
I'm so glad we're talking about this without Ricky. So when he comes back on, so we've already spoke about it. He doesn't need to salivate for 45 minutes over Richarlison's strike and how it was like his strike for Brazil. Just say we've already done it. So you can, that 45 minutes where you're just going to talk about Richarlison's contact.
Well, for those listening on audio platforms right now, Ricky Norwood has actually lost. He's run out of battery, so we've lost him for a couple of minutes. So, Rich, talk to me about this goal because Kudus again. Fantastic assist, takes his man on, gets the cross in, and Richarlison. It was a wow moment. It was an absolute wow moment. And I tell you what, this is exactly what we want to see from Richarlison. How many times have I said on this podcast that we haven't seen the Brighton version of Bissouma? We haven't seen the Everton version of Richarlison. Yeah. We certainly did today. And what a finish that was.
I think it was more, we haven't seen the Brazilian version of obviously
there you go.
Richarlison. Yep. I think that was... When he scored that goal, I think it was in 2022 in the World Cup, and we were like, where is this Richarlison? We've not seen this before. But the ball came over, and I think from what obviously Hollie said before about kind of Kudus' real strength, and it's very different to obviously Kulusevski where he comes back in and he's looking to shoot in the far corner. Kudus has got some great delivery, and I think, again, Richarlison, instinct, bang, right in the bottom corner, scissor kick, overhead kick, like brilliant contact. And he hit it like a rocket. If you look at the keeper moves when the ball is in the back of the net. He hit it so well. And I think the expression on the players' faces, as well as the disbelief from Burnley, really did show what a fantastic strike it was. It was one of those strikes that Richarlison has in his locker. He has that. He has that ability, that inspirational moment that he's not thinking about. The ball comes to him and he's hit it. He didn't set himself to do that. It was just at a certain height. He goes, look, this is what I'm going to do now. Fantastic contact and a magical moment for obviously the stadium to see. And the eruption after, unbelievable. Those kind of moments are what we as Spurs fans live for. We live for those really creative moments where it's even the third goal today, lots of team elements. I just think those kind of goals are the reason why Spurs fans turn up, because we know we've got the ability to do those amazing things. And Richarlison today really not just pay back some of his transfer fee, because that's whatever that is it makes no sense. I think Richarlison really just showed who he is as a person. And I think we're starting to, like I said before, adapt to his style of play. We know that sometimes Richarlison has a demeanour about him, and it's about accepting him for who he is, getting the best out of him. And that strike was unbelievable. And we want more of that. We want more of this Richarlison week on week against other teams as well, not just the Burnleys of this world.
Rich, I think it was Ricky who said it earlier that he would have been on his to sell list in this transfer window. How do you feel about Richarlison in a Spurs shirt? Because can he
now
find,
or before?
Well, now can he find consistency? Because when you see finishes like this, you know, all of us fans are wowed, and you just want to see more and more of it.
For sure.
He has had a very frustrating couple of years at Tottenham, hasn't he? Because of injuries.
Yeah, and also like I said earlier about the Tim Sherwood comment about being clumsy with, and sometimes he does look very clumsy with his touch or with his finish. And again, maybe the team's not really utilised the best out of him. And going back to what I spoke about earlier about working in pairs as players, maybe that's what they're wanting, like him and Solanke to do as well. Work not necessarily on the pitch as players, but work in tandem. You come on, your impact is this. It's about you kind of giving 110%. You're on it straight away because Richarlison's now scored first game. I think you know it's like strikers. You need to get your striker scoring. The hardest thing is putting the ball in the back of the net. You need to get first day of the season. Richarlison scores. He only scored 4 last year. He scored 2 today. And I think that's what's really important. People like him can be very dangerous for the team. We know what number 9s are like. You can't get a number 9 without paying 60, 70, 80 million that's scoring goals. And we potentially have got 2 of them. And if we add to that roster, again, that will make us more deadly. But the most important thing is like I say, consistency. I think, again, making sure that the Richarlison we get is injury free, and if there is any issues, he's not played until he's 100%. The thing that's happened in the past is Richarlison's looking a little bit leggy, and then 5 minutes later he's pulled his hamstring, do you know what I mean? It's like he overreaches for a cross and then he's out injured for 4 or 5 weeks, and then that injury after injury after injury. With the level that the Premier League is at the moment regarding how fast it is, the players that's in the teams, we need to have a Richarlison that's 100% fit, because that's how you get the best out of him. You will not get the best out of Richarlison if he's carrying injury or if he's not 100% fit.
Yeah. Hollie, let's come to you. On 64 minutes, Pedro Porro had a chance. He dragged it wide, but 2 minutes later, the crowd was singing Johnson again, ole, ole. I love that. I love to hear that again and again and again. What do you make of the goal that Brennan Johnson scored for Tottenham's third?
Well, he always scores, doesn't he? But it was good because, like I said previously, with Brennan Johnson, you can always see him pop up back post to slot it in the back of the net. But this was something different. Obviously, it was a great ball from Sarr once again, slipped it through. And then Brennan has to actually get another touch and beat, I can't remember who the Burnley defender was, but has to beat him to then get his shot away. And he does immensely well. Like I said, he's got some physicality within him now, and he managed to do that and just slot it straight underneath the keeper. But it was nice to see a different kind of side to Brennan today. I know I went on about the fact that obviously he's not very good at beating his man, etc., but we saw a greatly timed run for him to be slipped in behind. Like I say, a physicality to get that first touch under his belt and then slotting it home. I hope to see more of it because, like I say, it's nice to him to still score straight in the first game of the season, but in a kind of different way to kind of add to his repertoire of scoring goals. Because at the end of the day, scoring goals wins you games. So yeah, big up Brennan.
Yeah, interesting, Hollie. In the press conference post-match after the PSG game, a journalist asked Thomas Frank, was he injured? Why didn't he, why wasn't he in the starting 11? Were you surprised by that? What do you want to see more of Brennan Johnson this season, and how can Thomas Frank get the best out of him? What type of player can he be? Because like you mentioned there, our top goal scorer last season, of course, got the winning goal in the Europa League final, will be remembered for that moment for the rest of his life, be a Spurs legend because of it. But he does receive a lot of criticism from the Spurs fan base. So what do you want to see more of?
I think I just want to see more of that today, because it is hard to be in the right time at the right place. And I think Brennan does that immensely. And I do think he does get slated because he's not that natural out-and-out winger, which Kudus is. We've seen that today. He can take his man on 1v1. I don't think Brennan, not that he doesn't have the confidence, I just don't think he necessarily has the same sort of flair as Kudus. I know it's first game, but for me, Brennan just has that footballing ability to know where to be at the right time. And if he can kind of tap into that with those runs off the ball rather than being back post all the time. And today was kind of a goal, like I said, that I haven't really seen him really score like that. So if he can keep adding that to his game, like Richard said earlier, work well with Spence, if that is potentially what Frank wants to go with going forward, I could see him having another incredible season. And I think that's the biggest thing for me. Although Richie's firing today, although we know that Solanke can score, etc., we've got the service now, but we also know the likes of Brennan can get goals as well. And it's just nice to see that. So yeah, to answer your question, I think if we can just see Brennan making more of those runs like we did today, I think we can have another brilliant season with him.
I think it became very predictable, as well, guys. I think like a lot of teams that have come up, or players that come into the league or change teams, you're successful in one way or form, and then teams just work you out. And I think that's what happened to him. I think he's a great player that comes off the bench, and I think initially that's what he was bought with that first season, that he'd come off and provide that energy. He's super quick. He's a good finisher. I think he's underrated with his finishing. One thing, like you said, Hollie, I think he's not one of those wingers that is blessed with the ability on the ball to travel with the ball through players. I think that's not really him. He's more uses his pace, ball into an area, uses his pace, or uses his pace to get into a position to make an impact, whether that's back post. But he is a great finisher, and I think the finish today was a great team goal. Obviously, Richie holding the ball, Sarr taking it off him, Sarr slipping Johnson through, and then he ran with the ball. I think he had 2 touches and then slotted it in. I think that's where maybe the new Johnson comes into the team, where he's more of a, not just solely stays out on that wing, but actually can come and play in the centre when the space becomes available, and other players can slip him in to score, because he is a good finisher.
Rich, what did you make of the midfield of Bergvar, Gray and Sarr today?
Yeah, no, had energy. It looked like it was well organised, communicated within each other. I think there was that period, like you alluded to earlier, Chris, where probably 15-20 minutes in that first half where Burnley were coming into the game, and I think what happened was the midfield quartet really did drop off a little bit, and I just felt that there was far too much room. The midfield dropped slightly and enabled Burnley to get a real kind of grasp of the game. And I think when, after half time, when that was spoke about, obviously from the manager, then that was reevaluated, and then they got a kind of a grip of it again, because I was expecting maybe Thomas Frank to go, actually, we need to get somebody else into the team to make a difference. But he's like, no, guys, look, you're in the team. This is your position. This is your role. Let's kind of deliver. And I think you'd be pleased with that. I think you'd be pleased with how they reacted after half time to punish, obviously, Burnley and put the game away. I think their midfield was good today. I think it had the energy. It had some creativity. I just think Bergvar, every game you watch him, he looks creative. If he can get rid of some of those like mistakes when he is in possession, he's going to be a fantastic world-class player, hopefully.
Hollie, just want to talk about Dominic Solanke, because, of course, as I mentioned earlier, Thomas Frank loves the idea of making 5 subs in a game, which he did again today. Bentancur and Solanke coming on for Gray and Richarlison in the 71st minute. When we saw, or since Dominic Solanke's been a Spurs player under Ange Postecoglou, we've seen him doing a lot of pressing, a lot of running up the top there. Do you think that Dominic Solanke will be a very different striker under Thomas Frank? Because when we've spoken about all of these crosses that Mohamed Kudus has been putting in, particularly a couple for Richarlison, which he finished both of them splendidly today, do you see Dominic Solanke now being that striker in and around the 6-yard box?
I think so. I think the service last season for him just was non-existent, because we just never really crossed the ball into the box. And he's such a tall figure and strong that he needs to be in there. And I think you're right. I think a lot of last season, it was a lot of obviously tracking down, but it was also a lot of getting back as well, because we were so stretched in that middle, just to the way that we liked to play last season. So I do think Frank will try and utilise him a bit like we saw today with Richarlison. I can't remember if it was you, Chris, or Richard saying that with Frank, he's going to always want to try and pair players together. And I think although they have slightly different attributes, etc., I think they will try and mould them together and be like, right, your job is purely to be in there, press the ball when you need to, but be in the right place at the right time for us. Because, like we said, crosses come in from Pedro, crosses can come in from Spence. So, yeah, I think it will be key to have him in and around that 6-yard box, 100%.
In the 80th minute, Odegaard and João Palhinha came on for Bergvar and Johnson. Just a quick one, Hollie. On João Palhinha, impressed with him?
Yeah, I love him. I know Richard said earlier in the fact that he's been out for so long, but in that PSG game, he was absolutely immense. And again, we've missed a player that can do all the not so nice stuff and break up the play, and when the ball's loose, win it back. But he also has the ability to then move the ball on, which I think for times, I know Archie Gray did it a lot today as well. We haven't really had someone. We've had someone like Højbjerg that can break the play up, but then his next ball, the pass, etc., isn't always the best and can't necessarily carry it as well. But I feel like Pellegrini is coming with a very professional head, in the sense that he's been there. He's been here a long time in this game. He knows what he's doing. But then we've got Gray that can kind of learn from him and be that next kind of guy that's going to slot in there. So yeah, I'm very, very impressed with him.
I feel like Anne said, certainly said in the last couple of press conferences, being Spurs boss, that this window was always going to be about experience. So bringing someone like João Pellegrini in is extremely important into this team and in the system. Rich, talking about Mohamed Kudus again, because Tell replaced him in the 85th minute. When you've got a player like this, who we know is going to be very skillful, is putting in delightful crosses for our forward players to hit home like Richarlison did today, and Dominic Solanke in the future, I hope. When you've got a player like Mohamed Kudus, who is going to be a star at Spurs this season and beyond, how do you manage his minutes? Because the Spurs fan base are going to want to see him play every single minute, but it's not sustainable, as we've seen in the last couple of years. We're going to have games coming thick and fast: Premier League, League Cup, FA Cup, and more importantly, Champions League. Yeah,
for sure. And that's the reason why you've got to have the depth within the squad, but also the quality needs to be there as well. So those players that are coming onto the field of play, they understand the levels that they need to come on. They need to be ready. They need to have their eyes on the game. They need to know what's actually happening. And also, this is a real kind of statement to the board around backing the manager as well. If the manager sees that there's an opportunity to develop the squad further with further players, then we do so. And I know not only has there been talk of Eze, Silvino, but also another centre back. And I think we need to look at those kind of signings really, because we're going to be eventually playing obviously Wednesday, Sunday or Wednesday, Monday, and it's not sustainable, that kind of intensity, however much we feel that them being professional athletes and being able to do that once or twice a week. I think you want to keep them kind of fresh. You want to keep them kind of the quality as high as possible. And that's something that we've been very critical in the past, where we've had a great starting 11, but players that come off the bench just haven't been up to that kind of grade before. And I want to think that obviously Thomas is trying to have a team around him that enables him to do that, so that when he's looking to have an impact towards the back of the game, he's able to do that. And also from the PSG game, there'll be different kinds of substitutions. So are you bringing players on to hold, to fill those gaps, to kind of really bolster that defence? Or are you having those players on the bench to come onto the field of play and have an impact, those kind of weapons that enabled you to score those last-minute goals? And I think that's really important, that it has a dynamic bench that's able to do that, not just players that come on that they're going to replace the player, but the quality is not going to be the same. And that's been the real problem in the past, where you kind of look at the starting 11, and because of injuries, you've kind of just, yes, there's some players that are on the bench that maybe will make an impact, but we're not really sure. But I also think it's really important to have that avenue for the academy players as well, to get into that squad and have an impact as well, to showcase to the academy players that there is an actual progression from obviously youth level, under 23s into obviously the first team.
I just want to ask you both how you are feeling right now as a Spurs fan. This Premier League campaign, of course, the Champions League campaign as well. I know there's a couple of weeks left of the transfer window that we'll talk about lastly in a second. But Rich, how optimistic are you feeling about this season? Because we've seen and read some comments today from a lot of Spurs fans who are watching and listening to this podcast about, don't get carried away. It's only Burnley on the opening weekend of the season. But what are your expectations? What are your hopes for this season? Realistic ones.
Yeah, well, I haven't made my judgments just on the Burnley game. I think I've made my judgments from when Thomas Franks come into position from day one, really, and also the PSG game. I've watched, as you know, Chris, or the pre-season games as well, and it's about those behaviours, about like building. It's not necessarily about those results in pre-season. Obviously, we got battered by Munich, but we'd only just cut off a long haul flight, and the players were all knackered. It's like I heard some like crazy things from some of the fans going, "Oh, like useless players." Blah, blah. It's like you've got to look at the whole picture. That was a game that they had to play. Thomas Frank realised that was just like there was hardly anything that was going to get out of that positive apart from minutes in legs. When it would come down to the game against PSG, he had a strategy, he had a plan. Why would he show PSG in that Bayern Munich game exactly how he was going to play? It was an important game, the Super Cup final. And I think that's, again, the intelligence of the guy actually going, look, there's more than one way that we can play. And utilising the resources, which is obviously doing, adding to resources, which is doing. I still think that we need more players. I honestly believe, especially after past seasons of kind of injuries, and then you look at some of the players that we've still got out that are longer term, the James Maddison, Kudus, etc. of this world, that are those kind of first team environment players. And we need to have reinforcements. We need to have players that keep that energy, keep that level where it is and doesn't let it drop. Because I think some of those 22 losses that we had through the season were down to just levels dropping, just like players saving their legs for some of the cup games. And we can't be doing that now. We can't. We've kind of really set the stall out that we're going to be battling on all fronts. Every game is going to be important. Every touch, every pass is going to be important. And that's why the manager needs to be backed. Personally, I think it's going. Well, I feel confident that we're going to have a good season. Levels wise, I'd really like us to get back to that level where we're pushing for an automatic Champions League place. So that top four, that's where I see ourselves. I watched the Aston Villa, watched the Newcastle game. There's no reason why we can't be above those teams, that team. I think, obviously, Man United is a new project. I think, again, if we're above Man United, we're going to be there and thereabouts. I think it'd be really interesting to see how close we can get to the top four and also challenge those top four games, home and away, around the intensity, around the quality, because we've definitely shown against PSG that we have got that quality in the squad.
Hollie, what about you? I know it's pretty much impossible to speak for the whole fan base about what is acceptable for this coming season. But you know, when you look back at last season, finishing 17th in the Premier League table, you would think that, you know, we're definitely going to improve on 17th. But of course, how the season ended by winning the Europa League and that trophy parade, which was just simply incredible. And, you know, delivering a trophy after 17 years, delivering a first European trophy after 41 years. What are your realistic hopes and dreams for this season, given that we've now got a new manager? You know, a lot of things have changed at the football club, both on and off the pitch. What is realistic and what would you be happy with?
I think I am more optimistic than what I was, obviously, when Andrew got sacked, etc., etc. Now looking at what Frank's been doing pre-season and obviously now today, I think realistically for me, I think I'd be happy with top six. I think anything's better than 17th, but I do think, although we do look good today, and I know we keep going back to this, it's only Burnley, etc., etc., there's still quite a bit of work to do. So still, after you've played under a manager that plays a certain way, you still got little things that you need to adapt and change. And I do think with the crop of players we've got, they are now winners, which puts everything into our favour. But there are going to be so many games coming thick and fast. And last season haunted me with the amount of injuries we had. So for me, top six would be ideal. And then we have to win some sort of domestic cup. I think UCL is just a bit of a touch too far away for us. I think personally, that is a bit of a bigger jump. A domestic cup, however, like we say, we know how to deal in hard situations now. We have got such a good feel within this team of players that are there for each other. So I think a cup run and winning a cup, whether that be FA Cup or Carabao Cup, is there for the taking. I just think UCL is a bit of a step too far. I mean, if we manage to go through and get to obviously the last knockout rounds, that would be amazing. But I don't see us progressing incredibly far. But top 6 for me, and then a domestic cup would be lovely.
Lastly, let's talk about transfers. Rich, I'll come to you first. Now, literally in the last 60 seconds, The Independent have just stated that negotiations over a deal with Eberechi Eze and Crystal Palace have now become difficult.
Nothing's easy, right?
Do you know this Eze deal? I've wanted this to happen for so long. Do you think we're going to finally get this deal over the line?
Let's. Here he is. Here he is now. We're talking about Eze.
Sorry, guys, the battery died and I had to do madness.
Ricky, before we go any further, I've just asked Hollie and Richard about their hopes and dreams for the season. So we'll come to you on that in a minute. But literally in the last 60 seconds, The Independent have just stated that negotiations over a deal for Eberechi Eze with Crystal Palace have now become difficult. Should we come to you on this first about Eze? How important is it that Spurs sign a player of Eze's quality to be moving up that Premier League table and fighting on all fronts? You know, surely this is a no-brainer that Spurs need to go out and just get this deal done, because how many years have we been talking about possibly signing Eze? Surely this has to be the time.
Absolutely. I mean, if you need evidence, look at Kudus. And we don't want to be running him into the ground, do we? And we don't want, when Kulu comes back, to be running to the ground. And so you bring in another player that loves to be a guy that is strong on the ball, that can move it and that can slot into this team and express himself and, you know, influence the side. You go and get him. The doors are open to go and get a very classy, you know, experienced, a player that we all need, and we've been saying it for many and many years. So this is the moment. Don't let this be a Grealish moment again. Let this be the new Thomas Frank era, the new Tottenham era. Will go out there and show us what you're about in this transfer market. Go out there and make it happen. Of course, it's going to be difficult. Of course, there's always niggles. There's always lastminute.com, you know, extra issues to do with contracts or fees or whatever the case may be. But go out there and get it done. And don't panic as well, Tottenham fans. I know it's easy. It's because I panic too, all right? I get frustrated too, but don't panic. At the same time, there was in the Kudus negotiations, there was a moment where it could have gone 50-50, and we ended up making it happen and getting it for a fantastic price in 55 mil. This is part of the negotiation tactics. Us as a fan base are really easy to wind up because we're so used to it not happening, or us not doing the business, or us not being, you know, acting and like the big team that we say that we are. You know, Levy's come out with those two comments. He wants to challenge on all fronts, wants to win the Premier League and the Champions League. Well, this is the moment to go and make steps to back your own chat. Go get Eze because he slots in. There's nothing that you have to worry about with him. He's going to take that number 10 role. And he also gives Thomas Frank a very useful tool, another tool in that toolbox. You know, not only for rotation, but for different systems and different kind of plans to attack the opposition. So go and get it done, man. Go and get it done. But let's breathe with it. Of course, there was going to be a little something that came out, but let's breathe with it. I believe, I've got it in my heart. I don't want to believe it until I see him holding the shirt, but I think this makes sense on all fronts.
Savinho, Kudus, Eze, can you imagine it?
Yeah, yes, I can. And it would be dynamite, mate. What more encouragement do you need? You're seeing already, and you've got to remember, Cider Fox was saying this the other night, but you've got to remember that this is only 8-9 weeks into Thomas Frank being there and implementing these ideas. We've seen the tactics and a game plan come together in 2 competitive games, 1 Super Cup and 1 today. If you need any more evidence, that if you give the man the tools that he's going to deliver, you just look at the last 2 games. Go and get it done and see how far we can go. It's not like we haven't got it in the bank. It's not like it ain't there. So go and get it done. And it's an easy win as well. Every single fan has said Eze over the last couple of years. You know, I think even the players know about Eze and would love to play with Eze. I think Frank would love Eze. You look at what he's doing with Kudus right now, utilizing that strength and improvisation and unpredictability. You bring in Eze, and then you don't have to worry about rinsing Kudus or rinsing another really important player. You give us options. The same with Savinho. Go and get him too. Go and do it. And then it allows us to kind of jump up the levels that you want us to jump up. And it allows us to go and compete and go and fight and go to win a game rather than to get a result.
Yeah,
Rich, last season in particular, there was a lot of discontent amongst the Spurs fan base about, they believe that the club have showed lack of ambition in transfer windows. Of course, when you get those comments from the chairman, the new CEO, and Thomas Frank, all said exactly the same thing. We want to fight on all fronts. We want to win the Premier League. We want to win the Champions League. I suppose a lot of the fan base at the moment who you talk to are quite unhappy with the transfer window, although we've signed Mohamed Kudus and João Palhinha on loan, which I believe are going to be 2 really good signings. But there is that feeling amongst a lot of people that we need to do a whole lot more. Savinho and Eze, if we were to get these 2 deals done, I feel like the mood would change massively, wouldn't it?
Yeah, and also it's just like this kind of buying mentality where sometimes it's like you need to buy these players to be like challenging for the title. I would say fans need to look at like skill sets and value. Where are we lacking that skill set? Where are we lacking that player? And I think Eze just fit into that mold of a player that we need. And when you look back at other transfer windows, look at how late some of those deals have gone through. And so relatively, we've gone very early. And then also, I'm hearing a lot of fans comparing us to like the business that Arsenal's done or Chelsea's done or Man United's done. Completely different. And also, it's not guaranteed.
But everyone has strengthened. That is a concern. I know I'm one hugely to say, only worry about us. But when you see other teams doing so much business, strengthening, you feel like we had a lot of work to do at the start of the window. There's still a lot of work to do.
But where's the evidence around that strength, though? They've not won any games yet. They've not had an impact. They've just bought players in. They've bought something that they're buying the possibility of them doing better. Like some of the players that they're trying now to shift out, the Sanchos of this world, the Rashfords of this world, they're very good players. Like Rashford's gone to Barcelona. Like Sancho is a really good player. England regular at one stage. I think that the reason why that hasn't worked maybe is the mentality or the fit with that team. I just think sometimes fans get a little bit kind of deluded about we need to have a £70 million player. Don't care who he is. He might have like he might be scoring 70 goals a season in like Bosnia, but we want him because he's scoring those goals. And I think Manchester United are going to have to, as one of the teams, will have to get all those players into 11. Remember, you can only play 11 players. You can buy 35 players like Chelsea, but you can only get 11 on the pitch.
And the rest.
That's where the realistic side of what fans don't think about. Oh, yeah, buying this player, buying that player. Oh, he's done well at Barcelona. He's done well at Bayern Munich. He's going to do well at us. And it's a lot of these team games. It's about putting the pieces of the jigsaw together. Having a quarterback that's on the field of play, going into that American terminology, having somebody that controls the play, and then having a manager that's got all these tools that puts the best 11 out and the best strategy with that 11 to win the games. It's not about having 60, 70, 80 million pound players. PSG sold all their Galacticos and won the Champions League. And I think that's where the fans really need to think about. I think Spurs do need more players. the right players for the right system that Thomas Frank that needs to play. I think we need another centre back. I think if we get Savinho and Eze, I think probably that will be about it, or maybe some development young players. I think I'd rather have those two instead of another striker up front. I think because some of those attacking players can play that false number 9. So I think that was where I think we're very close, but we need to get the right kind of players. Don't look at what other teams are doing, because I think that puts you into kind of this, like Newcastle at the moment. A lot of Newcastle fans are going, "Oh, we've missed out on all these targets." Newcastle have a great team with Isak in it. They've got a great team. But what they're doing is they're going, "I missed out on this player, missed out on this player." I mean, if they'd have got all those players, they'd have 16 first 11s. They've gone for so many players. And I think that's where sometimes the fans go, "Oh, we missed out on this player, missed out on..." They might not necessarily work for that team.
Okay, Hollie, before we get your final thoughts, let me just ask you all very, very quickly, just give me 2 numbers, right? 2 numbers. Rich, let's start with you on this.
Never when you ask me this, start with me.
What number out of 10 would you give Tottenham's transfer window at the moment? And what number would you give it if Eze and Savinho was in that conversation?
Yeah, it'd be good, wouldn't it? It'd be good. So at the moment.
So you love my questions, really?
What's that?
You love my questions, really?
I love your questions. Is that a one? Is that a number out of 10 compared with last season's, or
no? A number out of 10 based on what we've done in this transfer window, and a number out of 10 what it would be with Eze and Savinho.
It's 7 now. It's 7. I think now as we are better than last season's transfer.
What, without Eze and Savinho, you'd give it a 7 out of 10 so far?
Yeah. I really, I think it's good. I think. I honestly think. Oh yes, we've lost Sonny, but I think you look at what he's moulding. You look at any like Kudus, Polinia. I really like him. I think he's underrated. When he was in the Premier League, best number 6. Like for that position, well, out of 3, probably one of 3 best number 6s, and we've got him. I think somebody that's hungry, and then obviously the players that were loans that now permanent deals. I think some of them are still raw, like the Tells of this world. But we had Eze and maybe another attacking player like Savinho. I think it's probably an 8, 9. Yeah, good. It'd be a good, really good transfer.
You've been listening to Ricky too much. I just said 2 numbers. You give me a Ricky answer.
Well, 10 then. 10 out of 10. That's 2 numbers. So
Ricky.
So Ricky, what did you want then? What did you want? Do you want number 7 and that's it?
Let's move on. Ricky, what's your 2 numbers?
For me right now, it's around a 4, and for me, it's 2 points apiece. You know, 1 specialist in the 6, 2 points, and another dynamite player in Kudus, another 2 points. I think sales are very important too, and nobody's really gone out the door apart from Sonny right now. So, you know, sales are really important too. But I think with Eze and Kudus, Eze and Savinho, I think that would bump it up to like a 7.5, 8. And then, because for me, it's about how balanced a squad we've got going into the season. If we get another centre back, or I think we're all right with the left back or a full back, you know. But if we can get it be balanced throughout, have those 2 options in every position, by the end of it, that'd make it a 10, you know, 9.5, 10 for me. But with Eze and Savinho, I would give it a 7.5, 8. If another centre back comes in as well, that's a strong 8.5. And, you know, if they do anything else from that, I think we must be dreaming.
The Independent have just stated there are doubts whether Crystal Palace will sanction a move now for Eze.
Well, let's see. We don't know. I mean, we was also linked with, and I know it's another kind of unlikely one, but in our Tottenham heads, but we was also linked with Danny Olmo, and Olmo is a dynamite player in that same position, and let's see what happens. I think right now we're in and I always treat speculation with punches of salt, not pinches, punches of salt. So I always think that these final moments are all about showing who's bluffing, these last negotiations, and just kind of they're trying to get more out of us, or we're trying to
force the move or something.
There's always this little bit, and let's just breathe, let them deal with it. They're on it. Do you know what I mean? They're going for it. The doors are open. They're talking, so let's see. Let's just breathe with it. Let's not lose our heads.
Chris, you look like you're at the ground still. Anyway, just go and knock on the front door. Just go ask what the situation with it. Eze, come on, just go on. With your kind of prowess. Come on, go walk in there and go, come on.
I've been saying it for 6 years. No one's listened. That's how much influence I have. Hollie, I'm so sorry for this over 2 hour podcast. I know your podcasts are a lot shorter than ours, and with the likes of Ricky and Richard keep blabbing on. I apologise.
It's all good. I must admit, I feel pretty fried in this office. I am not going to lie. So I'm going to keep mine nice and short and sweet. I'm going to go 6 and then a 9. Bosh, done.
Is that it? God, if only everyone gave me quick answers like that. Well, it'll be interesting. Let's hope that this Eze deal does get over the line, because I feel like a lot of Spurs fans would be on top of the world if this Eze deal does get over the line, particularly with the Savinho deal as well. And if Thomas Frank can get 1 or 2 more in the next couple of weeks, I feel like Spurs will be going places. Hollie, thank you so much for joining us. Let's hope that we can get you on a little bit more regular in the future if you do want to come back with these 2 hour podcasts. So apologies about that, but tell everyone about your wonderful work you do on your channel, and tell everyone about the podcast that you record.
No, thank you. I have enjoyed it. I just am a bit roasted. And I'm not very good at giving long answers, and I give them short and sweet because my brain power just doesn't last that long. So it's fine because I enjoy listening to you guys. So it's all good. But no, thank you for having me on. You can find me over on Hollie's Hotspurs. My shows are only an hour because, like I say, my brain turns to mush if I go any longer. So yeah, you can check me out there. But like I say, make sure you're subscribing to Chris and all these good people around. So yeah, up Spurs.
I say that, Ricky, 2 hours is a long one. It's probably one of the shortest, actually.
Do me a favour.
Done the last couple of months, yeah. Ricky, what have you been up to? Of course, you've been on TalkSport this week, representing the Spurs Chat Podcast. Of course, you've now started a new Spurs podcast as well. Tell us all about that. Tell us what you've been up to.
Yeah, man. Super excited to be down at TalkSport Towers the other day, representing the Spurs Chat Podcast and representing Tottenham. I was only Spur in there representing, and TalkSport wanted to try it and laugh at Tottenham, but I let them know anyway. But it was a good day, man. And yes, I've just started a new podcast, I suppose, with my brother Darren Hart, aka the Hart Man. And it's just us two sitting on the couch, and we look back on the last 2 weeks of whatever's happening with Tottenham. So episode 1 is out right now. It's the pilot episode. You're seeing all the bumps and scrapes before the show starts, in between and stuff like that. But it's just two mates sitting on a couch and chatting Tottenham, which, you guys around the world already know that I love to do anyway. So it's just another avenue for that. So please check it out. It's Tea Talk and Tottenham, all one word, no gaps, no commas, no spaces. You'll find us on YouTube. Episode 1 is out now. We are recording the second episode next week, where we'll be looking back on Bayern, the Super Cup, and the first game of the season against Burnley. So yeah, plenty for us to chat about. But yeah, it's just fun doing it, mate. And to those fans thinking that I'm going somewhere, I'm not. I'm going to be doing more on the Spurs Chat Podcast. I'm going to be doing more with Chris. There's going to be more content coming left, right, and centre. And it's exciting times. Exciting times. There's a couple of other things happening here and there that I will let you know about in due course. But yeah, really exciting times. And it's enjoyable. It's a lot of stress, but it's enjoyable. I'm starting to see the other side, Chris, of like the uploads and all of the technical bits that you've got to try and work out, which is not the fun bits. Do you know what I mean? And thankfully I've got Darren who's better at it than me, and the stress is more hitting his shoulders than it is mine. But yeah, man, I've got a new appreciation of what you do, not just going around the world and seeing every single Tottenham game that you can see, but also the amount of technical bits and pieces that you've got to do to make a show like this happen. So it's been with your encouragement. It was something that we spoke about in Germany, where he was like, Rick, what do you want to do? What do you want to do? And I was like, I don't know. I you know, the most that I would do on YouTube was chat about Tottenham, and then suddenly this show came along. So it's exciting to be working with my brother Darren Hart again. I've grown up with him. All we've ever done is speak Spurs and act and acting and performing and stuff like that. So really fun to be back in the studio with him. And yeah, just hope you guys like it, man. Let me know what you think.
Well, best of luck with that. And like Ricky said, he's not going anywhere. He's part of the furniture here on the Spurs Chat podcast. And I did encourage him to, you know, create some sort of YouTube channel or podcast himself, because if he does that and he talks a lot on there, he might give us shorter answers on here. But it hasn't quite worked out that way. Perhaps
never going to
down
happen.
the line. Ricky, best of luck with that. Thank you so much. We'll see you soon. And Rich, what have you got planned? 100 marathons soon, isn't it?
Yes, I've done 13 this year. So go to Reykjavik, Iceland on Wednesday, then run on Saturday for number 94, and then land back in Heathrow on Sunday, and then Monday get to Australia to Sydney for a Sydney marathon. So yeah, crazy. So yeah, 7 more to go, 7 more marathons. After I get these 2 done, I'll only have obviously 5 to do, and I'll be feeling a lot more kind of engaged with what I've actually done so far, because it's been crazy, like running all over the world. I've met so many Spurs fans actually. I saw Patrick in the comments actually say that I met his friend in New York and we had a chat. I think that was when I was watching one of the games in New York last year. But it's great to kind of talk about sport and the power sport, also engage with Spurs fans all over the world. So yeah, if you do see me obviously at one of these races and you are a massive Spurs fan, come and say hello, because I'd love to kind of chat to you for sure. But yeah, it's fantastic. It's a fantastic opportunity to let everybody on the podcast find that the power sport really does engage, whether you're a man, woman, whether you're 60 or 6, there's always a place for you. And it's about creating those nice, safe spaces. And everybody that's on the chat today and comment, please do support and follow Chris, Ricky and Hollie, because it is so important. The Spurs family is growing and we all need to support each other. So keep doing that, guys, because it is making a difference.
Yeah, I would just like to say a big personal thank you as well, because today we have reached 184,000 subscribers. And this week, the channel reached 150 million views, which honestly, these numbers just blow my mind. When it all started, and I've had this conversation with a few people at the stadium today, when it all started by me just getting the phone out of the pocket, recording the stadium demolition and then recording the stadium build to then turn into this 150 million views. Honestly, it's absolutely crazy. So from the bottom of my heart and the team at the Spurs Chat podcast, thank you so much for all of your incredible support. Thanks for subscribing. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. And we will be back midweek with a preview to the Manchester City game, which of course we haven't even mentioned, but you know, we could talk Tottenham for hours upon hours. Ricky, Richard, Hollie, thank you so much for your time this evening, and we will see you all soon. Stay safe and well, everyone, and come on, you Spurs.
Come on.